Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I just want to take a minute here to kind of touch on the nature of history at the college level and as a discipline, and also kind of the methods of historians. So to start with, I actually just want to briefly review and go over what primary sources and secondary sources are and how they're different. So a primary source is an account from a person who was actually present for an event, who observed it, took place, or took part in it, lived through it, whatever. But it's a person talking about something they themselves think or experienced. So examples of primary sources would be the stuff in your America Firsthand reader. Those are accounts from people who lived through these periods, who directly experienced them, and were commenting on them. A secondary source is a source that's written not necessarily after the fact, but by somebody who did not actually participate, witness, or live through the event. So example of secondary source that you have would be Celia. This is not a primary source because this is a narrative that's written by a historian who is telling the story, but he did not actually live through this and experience it. Other example of secondary source you have is your textbook. That's just giving information. It's not, those people did not live through the events they're writing about. They did not participate in them or experience them directly. Now, the understanding that concept is really important because certain sources that even may be written during the time period, but not by non-observers, would still qualify as secondary sources. So things like newspapers, for example, for the graduate course I was taking over the summer, to write a research paper, and I was covering the Triangle Fire, which I'll go over. We'll go over second semester. A lot of fun, not really sucked. It was pretty depressing. But anyway, some of the sources I was using were newspaper articles written the day of and the days after the fire, after the event in question, that were about it. Those would be considered secondary sources because they're not from the authors of those articles did not directly witness the event. They did not experience the event, and they're not necessarily giving their thoughts on it. So that would be why things like journal entries or diary entries or letters describing what people think about stuff would be considered primary sources, because the goal of them is not to give information. The goal of them is to, the author is trying to convey their feelings or express themselves or something like that. There actually can be a number of different goals. That's, I'm trailing. It's been a long day, but whatever. So that's just a quick rundown of primary and secondary sources. And as I've said, the bulk of our course time is going to focus on primary sources. As historians, primary sources do take do hold greater significance for us simply because they're firsthand. They're not secondhand experiences. These are firsthand accounts of the time period, of an event in question, of a mindset, of a culture, of something. These are firsthand accounts from this period that we're looking at. Hence why they're called primary. And that kind of brings us into the second part I wanted to talk about, which was the nature of history as a discipline and just what it is. And history is often mistakenly interpreted and stated to be a study of the past, and it's not the past. As much as we would like to say we can uncover what the past was really like, our ability to do so is limited because the past is the past. It's gone. So as historians, we're technically not studying the past. we are studying the relics or the records of the past in the form of the documents left behind, the writings left behind, the artifacts left behind by the people who lived through the past. And we're using these relics, these documents, these artifacts to try and build interpretations about what the past was really like, which is why you'll see professional historians disagree and have different interpretations about what the past was really like, because they're interpreting the available evidence in different ways. And don't get me wrong, there are certain lines which are definitely hard and fast accepted within the historical community, like the North won the Civil War, or FDR was a thing. FDR was a person. But they're on the finer points. They can disagree. So they might, while historians would agree that yes, the Union won the Civil War, they might have different interpretations about why the Union won the Civil War, or different interpretations about what the Civil War was really about. And again, the ability to interpret evidence differently and ultimately come to different conclusions is, to me, one of the things that makes history really interesting and really cool. So if we were in class, again, I would have liked to have had more of a discussion about this with you, but we're doing what we can with this being virtual. So make sure you get your reading done, have Rourke read for Thursday and have John Smith read for Friday, so we can do stuff with it. If you have any questions or concerns, shoot me an email. Well, you have to come to office hours. So bring them up at office hours. With that being said, I will talk to you guys later. Okay. See ya.